Okay, good morning, everyone. This is our bi-weekly all hands PM meeting. The topic for today is as part of our PMO education series. I know last time Michelle spoke to you about strength-based leadership and other topics, and this is you could say as a continuation of those topics and trying to figure out what your leadership style is. Michelle has some exercises that we'll be doing to discovering your leadership style. So that's on the agenda for today, and it's eligible for the 1 PDU. And to request your PDU, you need to be actually in the meeting today and participate. And we cannot give you if you just watch the video later on. So Send Noreen has taken over the issuing of the certificate, the PDUs certificates. So send an email to her and copy me, please. And that way you can get your PDUs at the end of each session, and we try to give it to you by the Friday of that week, so that we have some time to create the certificate and send it back to you. So you can request it today, but you will most likely receive it by end of day on Friday. And then the bottom, the QR code that you see is a few weeks ago, we sent out a request to complete a survey. It's a very simple survey, just like 4 questions, finding out how we are doing, how is this meeting going, what would you like to see more of or less of, just asking for your suggestion. So if you have a phone, you can just scan this QR code and it'll pull it up in your phone you don't have to log in, do anything, just fill out those questions. So we would like for you to fill that out. So far we have 27 plus responses back. We need a few more. So those who haven't completed it, please use this QR code to complete that survey. So with that, if there are no questions, I'll turn it over to Michelle to get us going. Michelle?
Thank you. And then Sankar, can you make me the host of the meeting so I can control the breakout rooms? Thanks. Well, thank you for having me back. I'm happy to be here and continue what we talked about last time when we looked at strengths-based leadership. We're going to add on to that today by going over Johari's window as well as part of how we can build on our own strengths and understand ourselves as leaders. So last week or a couple weeks ago when we met, I started with this quote that while failure can be avoided by focusing on weaknesses, excellence is only achieved when we focused on strengths. And knowing that, we looked at the Myers-Briggs, and you guys took this assessment just to get a general understanding of what your strengths are according to you. So the Myers-Briggs is a self-assessment where you're looking at it from your own perspective and answering the questions, and it's giving you a big picture idea of what your emotional intelligence is and some of the traits that you kind of put out when you're in a work situation or at home or with friends, family, etc. When we look at the purpose of the Myers-Briggs and how it can be used, it's really important because at this stage, emotional intelligence and self-awareness are 2 of the really important leadership characteristics that are vital when you're working in a knowledge society like we are now. The amount of trust between yourself and your team increases the more self-aware that you actually are. So looking at our leadership strengths and styles and how we implement that and use that to leverage our teams towards growth and progress. You guys took the Myers-Briggs and you had your test results. If you forget what your test results were, I do have them on the right-hand side, and you can see they are color coordinated. So overall, the analysts, which is purple, are architect, logician, commander, and debater. The green are the diplomats, advocate, mediator, protagonist, and campaigner, which we actually, I believe, had a lot of that type of personality. The sentinels are blue, the logistician, defender, executive, and consul, and then the explorers were, which is yellow, virtuoso, adventurer, entrepreneur, and entertainer. And right now, if you can't remember your results, if you could just take 10 seconds, look at this, and then refresh your memory because we will be using this later for yourself. I'll give you guys a second to look at it. Hopefully we all remember. I know that there were not very many analysts, so there weren't many in the purple section. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to go back to that idea of balcony and basement to identify the balcony and basement of the major strengths listed for the different personality types of the Myers-Briggs. I know for timing last time, we didn't really get to that. And that is the important part of looking at your Myers-Briggs, not just leveraging your strengths, but knowing how you operate from those strengths. So are you operating from your balcony or are you operating from your basement? Because our strengths can very quickly become our weaknesses and not be used for growth of the team if we are misusing or mismanaging those strengths or operating in an unhealthy way. So when we look at the balcony of the strengths, these are the positive characteristics of the theme that we typically think about. And the basements of the theme are the vulnerabilities when they're misapplied, misused, mismanaged in that unhealthy way. And so we have to always ask ourselves, even if we know that we have a strength, where am I operating from? And what does it look like when I'm operating in this very healthy way to the team members that I'm trying to lead versus this unhealthy way? So today what we're going to do is we are going to actually do what I think someone asked for. They're like, do you have what the balcony and basements are? And we didn't get to that part last time where we really self-reflected and wrote down the balcony and basement so that we could better identify and become aware of them. So with your group today, we're going to do that. And you may not be assigned to your actual personality type, but you will be assigned to a section. Like the analysts will be the purple section. So even if you know that it's not your part, we'll still be just filling it out. So in your group, when we go into the breakout rooms, you're going to fill in 2 to 3 descriptors of your assigned section. The balcony being the positive characteristics of the theme, the basement being the vulnerabilities of that theme. If you're sent to room 1, you're just doing the purple section. So you're going to look at something like rational, and you're going to put in like 2 or 3 descriptors of the positive aspects of being a rational person. So very organized, detailed, thinks things through would be that balcony aspect. Then you're going to talk together about the basement. So if I'm a very rational person, what can the basement look like if I'm operating in an unhealthy or mismanaged way? Well, if you're overly rational with your team, you miss the nuances of social interactions or situations. And that can be very unhealthy when you're making decisions. The basement of being a very rational is you don't allow for any, emotions to be part of the team or the dynamic. And so that can also become very unhealthy when you're overly rational. And so that's what you'll be doing. You want to try and get as many as you can in them. If you can't think of a balcony or a basement for your section, you can always just leave it blank. But as many as you can get in there would be great. So when we look at how you're going to fill this out, it will look like this. For the first section, I actually already did it. So you have like a model of balcony and basement, and I put more than 2 to 3, but if you can just get 2 to 3 in each of them, that would be great. This is a shared doc. So when I send it in the chat, everyone will have access to it, everyone in every group. So if you are sent to breakout room 1, you're just going to do the purple section. If you're sent to breakout room 2, you're going to do the green section. Breakout room 3 will be blue, and breakout room 4 will be yellow. And with your group, you're just going to talk about what are the positive and negative aspects of each of these strengths. And every group will see everyone typing, which is totally fine. You can kind of pace that way. I'm only going to give about 7 minutes in the group though, so that we could come back and really actually apply what these balcony and basements look like and to ourselves. So did anybody have any questions about what they're going to do in the breakout room? Anything to clarify?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
I did not do the previous section. I was unable to attend, so I didn't do the Myers-Briggs. So I don't know what color I am.
Oh, you know what? You're just based on a color, based on what room you go into. So if I send you to room 1, you're going to do purple, blah, 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 and you'll do it that way. You can always take the Myers-Briggs later on your own and see what you are. And then every time you have this document, you can go through then and you can look at it and say, okay, well, I know that I'm purple and these are some of the major strengths of that purple section. What does balcony and basement look like?
Okay.
stop sharing. And in the chat, you guys should all be on there, and I can actually see that it's being populated right now. There's like a bunch of people on there. An anonymous jackal is at the top right now going in. And just so you know, everything, because the share settings are open, everything you type will be anonymous. So you don't have to worry about people seeing who's doing what on here. I'm going to break you into breakout rooms now. And then you are just working on your assigned color. So, and I will rename those when you get into your room, and I'm going to set a timer for just 7 minutes. So hopefully we get a lot done on that page and start populating it pretty quickly, so then we can use it.
Hi, Michelle. Have a note from Kim. If you would
Hello.
Hello.
Is our room number or room color?
How do you find that out? Let's see.
Oh,
There
just
we go.
message. Wait, sorry, what room are we? Are we, which breakout room number are we?
What color are we?
I don't remember what break, I saw her group, I don't remember what breakout room we are. To determine the color.
Popped up and then it went away.
Sorry.
I honestly think we're purple. Because we're group 1.
Hi,
All
group.
right.
Hey, what color are we?
You guys are purple.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. So, fill in 2 to 3 descriptions of the positive. So this is kind of actually what we did last week. Lisa, you were there in our group. Sorry.
Yeah.
We talked kind of like about our favorite traits. So this is kind of like why you would like, being independent, and what happens when, like, you're independent but it's not working out. So I'll go. So for independence, I think lack of trust in others to accomplish shared goals.
Are we supposed to be seeing a document? Like, I'm not.
Oh yeah, I'll link it in our chat, but it was in the main chat.
Oh, right, it was the main, okay. I didn't know, like, while you're typing. Okay. Oh, I have it open other tab, sorry. Okay, go on.
So I think independent balcony is I think leadership by demonstrating competent, self-managed. Accomplishments. So let's try to determine what's like kind of the downside of what happens when you're in, like, you're focusing on your determination. David or Keith?
I think I might let me jump in. Maybe when you're determined, you don't take into account others' feedback, maybe because you're just focused on trying to get something done, and you may not. That might come to, but listen to others, kind of thing.
Sure.
You're prone to leap before you look.
Oh, I like that. What about when you're at the kind of top level?
Positive attitude.
I would say a contagious positive attitude, which is true. I think when people are really determined on something, it's kind of contagious. Like everyone wants to be inspired by
So very focused since you're working independently, so.
yeah. I would say reduced errors. I feel like when someone's like really determined to like kind of deliver something, they also are a little bit more cautious on their errors. You know, that's at the balcony level. How about analytical?
Very detailed. And then the basement would be too detailed.
What is this? Analysis, paralysis?
Yes.
Let's just, if you guys come up with some, I'll write them down. But we'll try to get through all of them so we can go back to the group with something. Efficient.
Kind of like analytical, very detailed. Everything has to be perfect for the basement.
Oh, I see. Perfection.
Actually, efficient to me sounds like
Yeah.
they'd look at the most efficient way of doing it, but then the basement would be
Cutting corners.
spend too much time trying to make it efficient.
I think also for efficient, sometimes is the basement can be something like you just want to do it fast, but sometimes you don't spend actually enough time looking at the details.
Yeah.
Easier to
Here.
come up with basement than it is balcony.
Nice. Okay, so confident, leadership feels natural. It's like, what is that? Command of a room.
It's also reassuring, right? When you're confident, you're reassured yourself, like, yeah, I got this, so.
Yeah, that's true. These I think everyone's gonna be able to get, right? Arrogant, cocky.
That's the way I was thinking.
Annoying.
Going after arrogant. I was like, well, you know, there's pros and cons. You want to find out golden balance, I think.
Easy to alienate. All flower types. I guess it's kind of the same on the charismatic, a lot of the there you go. Okay. Michelle's doing all our work for us. That's great.
Socially attractive.
Ooh, socially attractive. I like that. If you have one, you can just put it in the chat or call it out and I'll type it in for us.
Under confident basements, it says easy to alienate wallflower types.
Yeah.
Is that, so you're not the wallflower type, you're alienating the wallflower type?
Correct.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Yeah. I feel like when someone is really like, I don't know, whenever I go to those like really big Tony Robbins types things, they get like a reaction out of certain types of people, but a lot of people are just, they get turned off by it and then they like kind of shut down. They're like, I'm not gonna listen to anything anymore because
Yeah. No, I was reading it as if there was a comma after alienate.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's why I'm like, wait, what? Oh, okay, that made more sense.
All right. You got 30 seconds. Any more you want to add?
I think it looks good.
I think sometimes if you're passionate, I guess, I think when you're too passionate, sometimes you lose track of the big picture and you're just so focused on it that like everything else looks, I don't know how to say it. Everything else looks like you just,
Okay, I'm going to ask you all to do something just so we don't accidentally edit this document, which looks great, by the way. Everything that you guys were talking about in the breakout rooms, definitely identifying how our strengths can actually work against us if we're not operating and using them correctly. That Google Doc that I sent you, can you close it on your computer, please? It doesn't get edited.
Don't trust me.
I'll just send it to you again in a different format, but I just don't want anyone to accidentally edit and self-identify on that one. So go ahead and just exit out, close that tab.
Done.
Done. Perfect.
yeah.
Done.
Thank you. So what we're going to do now is you have self-identified what the, hi, I'm sorry, I'm in a meeting. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So what we're doing now is now that you've identified them and you have put in those balcony and basements, those are kind of general. What I want you to do is see which balcony and basements you think apply to you. Again, this is more self-assessment. So what you're going to do is you are going to look here and you can bold or highlight these words. So I'm going to give you in the chat right now, which is why I had you close the other one, a new link. When you press on that, it will make you force a copy. So you will have your own individual copy that only you have access to, that no one else can see. So when you press on the link, and I'll show you what it looks like if you press on that, it should look like this. It'll say Google document and then make a copy. So go ahead and press make a copy. It may take a second to make you yours, but now you have the document with everybody's work on it, but it's your individual copy. So
Can
what
you
I
see,
want,
Michelle?
I'm getting a login thing.
you shouldn't get login. You may have to just press login with your Google account. Like if it says make a copy and then whatever account you're on right now, it should open.
I don't have the option to make a copy, but I don't even know what my, okay, let's try this.
Was everyone else able to open it? Because it's open to everyone on the web.
You have to you have to log in with your Gmail account.
Yeah, you have to probably log in and then it will force a copy.
Yep.
You'll know that your copy is open because yours will say copy of balcony basement. And if you can't open a copy, this was just so you wouldn't have to handwrite, but you have it in front of you, so you can look at it. Now, I know that I'm a commander, so I'm in the purple section. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take 3 minutes. I'm going to read over all these balcony and basements. And I'm going to be very honest with myself. And I am going to underline or highlight the ones, and this is my copy, and I think I'll just underline so I can see it, that I think apply to me. And I'm going to go through, and you can do this for just your positive traits, or you could do it for the positive and, right, the ones that are the vulnerabilities of our theme. But you're just looking at your section, not the entire document. And as many as you can get through, great. That's what we want to do because, again, it's more of that self-awareness and self-assessment. of what are the things that I need to look out for when I talk about my strengths and how I'm utilizing them. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing just because I know it makes internet a little bit slower. I'm going to put a timer on for just 3 minutes. If you could read through just your colored section on yours and start self-identifying some of the balconies or some of the basements, if you want to include that as well, for your personality type. There's about 1 minute left to identify some of your traits. All right, our time is up. It's okay if you didn't get through the whole thing for your section, but even if you just did a little, it's a little bit of reflection on where you think you land and that self-assessment. And we will actually come back to this. So now that we have done a little bit more self-assessment, we're going to look at something called the Johari window. Is there anyone who has heard of the Johari window or used it themselves in their teams?
Yes.
Besides you, Ian. I'm sure you
Trying to
have.
participate.
No, I haven't heard of it or used it.
Okay, that actually makes me very happy. I'm glad no one's heard of it. It's more fun to learn new things. So when we look at the Johari window, what we already did is we did a self-assessment. And self-assessment is really great for awareness of our own leadership styles. However, the issue with self-assessment is that we're biased towards ourselves and we see ourselves in a certain light that may not be the reality of how others see us. And so the Johari window is a framework that was developed by 2 psychologists. It's kind of silly. One psychologist's name was Joe, the other one was Harry. So they called it the Johari window. Johari window. They just combined their first 2 names. And the purpose of the tool was to better understand oneself with the help and reflection of an outside source. So it's a window with 4 panes, or, I think of a house with 4 rooms, right? Different aspects of who we are. One room is an open room. When we look at the way that the Johari window is set up, the open room means that these are traits that are known to you and known to others. So when I say I'm detail oriented, if I asked anyone at my work, is she detail oriented? They'll all say, yes, definitely detail oriented. It's an open room or the open book. Another room is the hidden room. These are details about ourselves that we know, but we hide them from others and they don't know them. So they're not known to others. The third room is the unknown window. These are traits that I have the possibility of using and utilizing for myself, but they're hidden to me because of lack of opportunity or lack of reason to use them, which means that they are by default also hidden to others. And then the last room is our blind spot. The blind spot is a trait that is unknown to ourselves that we possess, but others see it in us. And what we're going to focus today is on that blind spot, because knowing what our blind spots are helps us to become authentic leaders, being more of ourselves, more open, more vulnerable to feedback, and then creating a high amount of trust in our relationships. So I have this 2-minute video that goes over the basics of the Johari window. And then I'm going to show you an exercise that you can do to complete your own Johari window to see what you have that's open to others, what you have that's hidden only to yourself, what's unknown that you can actually capitalize and use to grow professionally, and then what is your blind spot that you need to actually work on that others see in you and you don't see in yourself.
One of the tools that we use when we're talking about authenticity and feedback is the Johari window. The Johari window is a model. It just has 2 axes. And on one axis, it is what I see. And on the other axis, it's what others see. So there are the things that I see, yes, and the things that I don't see, no. And over here, there's what others see, yes or no. So what I do see and what others see is what we call our public self. That is what I am projecting and others are perceiving about me when I am out in the world. What I don't see and others do see is what we call blind spots. These are areas that are ripe for feedback. So if somebody has ever come up to you and said, I'm experiencing you being a certain way and you don't think that's right, that's a blind spot. You don't see it, but they do see it. Then there's what others see, or what I see, but what others don't see. And that is my hidden or secret self. These are the things that maybe I don't want others to know about me. Maybe I had a traumatic experience when I was younger and I'm insecure and I don't want people to see me as insecure. So I have a defense mechanism that I put out there. So that's my hidden or secret self. And then here, what I don't see and what others don't see, that's a mystery. And the way that the model works is that if I get feedback, I can actually learn what my blind spots are and be able to be more aware of them. So I move things from this box over to here. If I have my hidden or secret self, if I'm willing to share more, if I'm willing to be more open, then some of my hidden or secret self that maybe I'm not so ashamed of or so worried about hiding, I can move into my public self and actually project more of who I really am to the real world. The phenomenon that tends to happen then is it creates this vacuum where suddenly things that I am not aware of about myself and others are not aware about myself will start to move into the perception of either others or to me. And they can start to experience more of who I am. This is where true discovery is. Other people, like if I say something about myself, hey, I just learned this about myself. And people said, oh, I've always seen that about you. Well, that was just a blind spot. That wasn't really a mystery to everybody. The real discovery is when things start coming to either others or me that I've never seen before. And that is, this is where personal growth can drive from if I take an active effort in this. One of the tools that we use when
Okay, so when we look at the Johari window, it's always good to start off with how we perceive ourselves first, which is why we did the Myers-Briggs first, because a lot of you last time said, oh, I do see myself in here. This is more accurate to me. I see these strengths. I see how I utilize them. What we really want to do to make that effective is we now want to take the feedback from our teams and say, I know I perceive myself this way, but how are others perceiving me? And so the Johari window helps to identify these blind spots that we may have, because often the biggest blind spot is ourselves. We are the reason why we don't see it. We view our strengths and talents and who we think we are in a very specific and certain way. So it's easy to see problems and logical inconsistencies in other people. It's very hard to see them in ourselves. This illusion of objectivity is particularly noticeable in senior leadership because there is a tendency for people to tell you what you want to hear because you are the boss, you're the manager. But this feedback that we're creating with the Johari window allows us to be more authentic leaders, and it supports our own personal growth. So an example of this that I read in a book that was discussing the Johari window was about a senior executive who didn't like bad news. And so when he heard bad news, he always had the tendency to shoot the messenger. And over time, people started to keep that bad news to themselves, and they would sugarcoat messages that did have to go to the senior executive or conceal information that might upset him. And so when he went to his assistant to tell her, and she was kind of, upset about this, and he was venting, and he said, I don't like not knowing what's going on in my organization. I don't feel like I know what's actually happening. People aren't keeping me in the loop anymore, and they're hiding information from me, because he didn't realize, at least not at first, that his behavior was what was causing the problem he wanted to solve. That was his blind spot. And so the Johari window, in that sense, he had this issue and problem that he wanted to remedy, but it was something that was known to others and not known to himself. And because of that, it perpetuated the issue. Now, in the book, it talks about how his assistant said, well, you have a tendency to do this. And then, it opens up the blind spot, but you have to be open to that feedback in order to build off of it. So what I have for you is an exercise in practicum. This is something I know Ian has said a couple of times. We want you to be able to take this and use it. And so I have something for you to take it and use it. Hopefully some of you do. It's a very interesting exercise. It helps with self-awareness, and then it identifies blind spots. So what you do is everyone now has a copy of the balcony and basement descriptors. You have already self-identified what you think you are. Everything that you've self-identified, you would either put in the open space or you would put it in your hidden self, right? So you would have those. These are all, this is how I see myself. And either it's open or it's hidden, etc. You have yours, and you can look at them and just identify. You would give a blank copy of those descriptors. I'm going to say this, to a mentor, not someone on your team, because there's a power dynamic. But if you have a mentor that you trust, who you think knows you very well, then what you could do is give them the same list, not highlighted, not bolded. And you just ask them, can you highlight the words that you think best describe me in my work environment? And then you would take the lists and you would create your window. So when you have their list given back to you, if you both chose the same word, like for Ian, I would say Ian is social, outgoing, welcoming, and say he says that about himself, and I've chosen it too, then I'm going to put that word in my open window on the actual diagram, because I see that in Ian, and he also identified himself as welcoming. Now, if you identify a word, but the person or mentor you gave it to did not identify that word when you gave them the same list, then we would say that is part of your hidden self, meaning you have that trait or talent, but you're not effectively showing it to others outside of you, and they don't perceive it in you. If you have positive traits in there that you've self-identified, that's an area of retrospection. What do I need to actively do in order to show this trait to my team and organization? Now, this is kind of our very important one. If your partner identifies a word that you didn't identify, that's your blind spot. Now you have areas of real, true growth that you can do if you go and seek feedback. So if I'm doing this with Ian, and Ian is my mentor, right, in this series. So Ian is my mentor, and he identifies something in me, and I don't see it. It becomes my responsibility to go to Ian as my mentor and say, I need feedback then. Because if you're saying this is a blind spot, how can I remedy it? What can I do actively in my teams or in my meetings in order to make this more productive or effective? Or if I have something that he's identified that's negative, maybe a balcony, asking for feedback. Where have you seen me actually do this? How could I better turn this into a basement? How could I better turn this into a balcony? Now, all the other words that you identify about that you don't even identify, or they have words that no one has put. This is like an interesting window. This is the area that you haven't self-identified those words. It's all the ones that you haven't bolded or underlined, that you could actually put in that last box of unknown. It means that you have the potential for them, but you haven't actually thought of ways to develop those talents. So if there's something within that group, like for me, I'm purple, and I see something, I say, I know my personality is ripe for this, but no one has identified it about me. Then here's where I can really focus on growing, not just on modifying or evolving some of the other words that I've identified. And so when we look at this is really a way for understanding your window. The size of your window will illustrate the amount of self-awareness you have present. If you do this with your mentor and your blind spot is huge, then that shows that you are not aware of your actual leadership style, even though you have the potential to be by seeking feedback. A small window or room may also reflect areas for development and interpersonal communication. And then ideally at the end, our open window will be large, because when your open window is really large, it shows that you have authenticity, openness, and actually it shows a high level of trust, because not only you're being your authentic self, which means you're sharing openly with people around you. And so when we look at what this means and what you can take from this is, number one, what can you do? You can reveal yourself. So let others know your skills and capabilities. The more others know about it, the higher trust is built between you. You can seek feedback. Don't be afraid of it. It's essential for modifying behavior and becoming more self-aware. And then finally, the last part, that unknown window, is test your limits. If you have all these things, you have this great open window, you have very few blind spots, and over time you're moving those blind spots over to your open window, then you can start focusing on that unknown part and say, but these are things that I have the potential for. How can I expand my comfort zone, build this self-awareness by testing myself in new environments with others who can still continue to provide this insight and guidance? And so this is the exercise that I hope that you take in practice. Draw the window, you have your list already, identify those, ask a mentor to do this with you, and so that you can continue to expand that open window, build trust with your team, etc. And then this really other part that's kind of cool is the testing your limits part. You may see at the end, you have this great open window, but that doesn't mean that we're done with building and growing our leadership. It means that you have the opportunity that a lot of people don't have, which is to actually have personal growth and test some of the unknown aspects of your strengths. And with that is what I have for you, and I finished on time today.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions regarding your particular leadership style and the follow-up exercise, that Johari window exercise? Any questions on that?
I have one. So where would you put something that you're aware of, but you actively kind of suppress, like for the basement stuff?
Yeah, and so this is the other part. You want to put those in, right? And there are some things, especially in a work environment, we purposely keep hidden, and it's appropriate to do so. Keep them hidden. But again, you want to have that list because you may identify a basement that you think is hidden, and then someone identifies it in you. It's not hidden, it's a blind spot. So you want to make sure, because we're not actually putting them in the window until our mentor has gone through and identified the list. Then you'll really see where they go. And if you realize, all right, well, this is a hidden one, good, I'm doing what I'm supposed to. I'm hiding this very negative trait and I'm circumventing it and not operating from the basement. That's kind of how you can analyze it, if that makes sense.
There's a question on the chat. Does the mentor have to be a work mentor? If so, I don't have anyone other than my manager.
So it does not have to be a work mentor, but I will say this. We have our work self and our home self. And when we are our authentic selves, work self and home self actually overlap. For a lot of people though, work self and home self don't overlap because we have a different role and persona at work. than we do in our home and relationships. And so part of authentic leadership, it's called like the 5 levels of leadership, is having more congruency between our home self and our work self. But for some, it's just not approachable to do. So it just depends what you want feedback on. Doing it with someone is better than doing it with no one, because even someone who doesn't work for you on your team or your mentor could identify for you some of your blind spots, right? But I would say just look for how congruent you think your work self and home self are, and go from there. And then if you can't think of someone, a mentor at work, then definitely anyone who's close to you. I've done this twice. I've done it with a mentor at work, and I've done it with someone who I work with who is a colleague, but we're very good friends. And so our relationship is more outside of work in that sense. And you will still get really good feedback from both.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
The only thing I'll add, Michelle, is try to do 360, meaning people above you, people who are colleagues, and also people who are under you, if you will, or subordinates. And for me, for example, some of my best feedback comes from my 12-year-old, and she does not hold punches. And I do ask them regularly on things that I can improve on, and boy, do I get honest feedback. So try to do a 360, and also try to do people in different settings. You'll be surprised what you get from work, home, and also social settings with your friends.
Okay, I think we have 1 minute left, or we can take one last question. All right, if there are no other questions, send an email for the PDU to Noreen, copy me, and then please complete that survey if you haven't already done so. Thanks, everyone. Have a good
Thanks,
rest of the
Michelle.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank
Ian,
you.
Do you have 1 minute?
Yeah.
Give a minute to stay on? Okay. And Mike, if Mike has a minute as well.
Sure.
Okay.
You're a host, right? So
I
let
am the
Sankar jump
host.
off.
So,
Okay.
I mean, Sankar is more than welcome to stay, but
I don't know if
I turned off.
Yeah, I can
turned off
close
my
out
video
if you're
when
the
I-
host, then you will.
yeah, I think I am the host, so you should be good.
All right.